The how is sales training, like how to close, what to say, one-liners. The what is the product, the service, the company. If you understand the why, then why is the impact? If the impact is big enough and you believe in it, you're going to sell that.
I've always made the joke, I could never sell a Maserati. Why? Because I don't believe in it. So I think for sales, you have to look at the high core governing value of why you're doing it.
So I'm divorced, 3 kids, and it's wrecked my life. I've had a lot of failures, a lot of successes in sales. I've realized not filling my cup. And even though I was selling well, doing pest control, I was slowly depleting my cup. It wasn't sustainable because the personal development, everything else wasn't there. We can't pour from an empty cup. And that's what selling is.
The thing that people tend to leave out of their lives is community. And really what I mean is like a mastermind. Like if you want to level up, you need to be around people who are going to help you get there. And you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. That's what changes the game. That's what makes or breaks your success.
Poor sales rep, like a low performing sales rep, what do their values look like? What are they missing?
First and foremost, just having needs met, right? Because it's like if you're just focused on needs, like I need to pay my car payment. Well, once you meet that need, you're going to stop, right? So I think people who are focused on needs-based goals are always going to be a poor sales rep. If you focus on wants-based goals, that's going to be a good sales rep.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I forgive my voice, but today we have Jordan Adams and Chad Thompson with us today, joining us from Door-to-Door Experts. These guys are veterans in sales, especially with roofing and solar. And these guys do consulting. Chad, give us a little background on you, and then Jordan on you as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I cut my teeth in sales in door-to-door, specifically in 2014, doing telecommunications. And it was the last job that I wanted to do. Just kind of found like the universe pushed me into this place where it was like the clear option. Yeah. And did that for a number of years, found out I could make a lot of money. And more importantly, the closest people to me started to realize like how different I was, and my character changed, more than any job I've ever had. My character changed the most in door-to-door sales. And then kind of moved into,
like, in a good way, bad way, summarizing. We'll go into it. But
yeah. So
in a good way, or summarizing, right?
In an amazing way.
Okay, I like
in an amazing way. Yeah. So, and then that led to starting businesses, and I recently just sold my roofing company, and
it was over 9 figures.
Yep. Wow. Yep. Yeah. So it's been fun. Now I get to consult with Sam. I was in Africa with him. He's like, "Why don't you come just teach people how to do what you did?" And
Sam Taggart for the audience. Yeah.
Sam Taggart. So now I get to hang out with Sam and teach CEOs how to do what I did.
That's awesome. Love it. Jordan.
Yeah, I think I'm the old guy in the room. So I cut my teeth in door-to-door actually as an LDS. Well, right before I went on an LDS mission, I sold like pest for like a month, and I was 19. I was like, this sucks. Right. So went on an LDS mission to Michigan and really cut my teeth knocking doors in negative 20-degree weather for 2 years. And from there, sales-wise, man, I've sold a lot of things: blinds and shutters, pest control, some alarms, primarily solar, as far back as 2013, 2014. Worked with a lot of different solar companies, built 2 large-scale solar companies, one a sales org only, an EPC as well.
Both doing 70 mil, you said?
Yeah. Large companies, large volume. Man, I sold solar back when we were making 150 to 220 a kilowatt. We were talking about this before, where it's like, man, I sold like 23 deals. I'm making like 50 grand this month, and now it's like that's like 250 grand in a month. So definitely from a different decade or like generation of door-to-door salespeople. And then really got into the personal development side as a CRO, primarily with my reps. I started to do more human development and development of my personnel. And that really led me into creating like a personal development company, primarily focused around mindset and fitness. And so for the last several years, have built up an organization called the Stoic Dad.
You run that podcast?
I do. I run a podcast, and that's actually how it started. It started as a podcast, primarily focused on Stoic philosophy, which is really the most hard-ass philosophy out there. You have to listen to my podcast. It's not necessarily that, but it is something that draws people to higher levels in their life. And so I started that podcast, and that filtered into Wes Watson kind of dragging me into doing fitness coaching. And then Sam Taggart conned me about 6 months ago to start consulting businesses as well, primarily because of that human development experience. And so a lot of different things that I've been involved with through the years. I think it just comes with age, though. You know what I mean? So as I get older, I just do more things, and that becomes more applicable to clients.
Well, dude, what I love with that, Jordan, is like Sam, sales expert, sales genius, comes to you and sees the value you bring with human development. Why?
Yeah, well, so Sam and I have known each other for a long time. We've had a good relationship, and we had done business together. And the story is kind of funny how we got together doing this, because just running my fitness coaching business. And he texts me one day. He's like, "Hey, I live in Orlando." He's like, "Hey, I'm in town. Let's hang out." And I'm like, "Cool, whatever." Like, he's like, "I'm 30 minutes away." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll drive down there and hang out." He's like, "Hey, meet me at this roofing company. I'm like doing like a consulting thing with him." So I get there. He's like, "Hey, I'm 30 minutes late. Will you train these guys?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, what do you want me to talk about?" He's like, "I just talk about whatever, So I get up and I start talking about this, like high level, belief systems and stuff. And then Sam gets there and it immediately introduces me as, "Hey, this is your expert, Jordan." You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, "No," and he said this much. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm your expert, Jordan." You know what I mean? So it was kind of like a thing I fell into. And then we had a conversation and he's like, "Look, this is the greatest bait and switch in history. Here's what we're going to do. People come to the DDD experts and they just have the expectation of more revenue, more sales, right?" Yeah. He's like, "But what we're really doing is we're improving them as people. And then as they improve as people, their revenue and their sales increases."
I love that.
And that's why I'm here.
We're going to jive so much on this stuff. Let's actually jump right into that. With sales performance, like how do you actually sustain sales performance at a high level?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's a really good question. And I'd love to hear Chad's input on that as well. For me personally, I think that I've always made the joke, I could never sell a Maserati, a new Maserati. Why? Because I don't believe in it, right? It devalues immediately the second you drive off the lot. It's a terrible car. So I could never walk around the lot and be like, "Yeah, you should buy a Maserati," because there's no belief system in it, right? So I think for sales especially, you have to look at the high core governing value of why you're doing it. So I love roofing actually, because roofing for me always seemed like this old smoky roofer product, right? It's like tar, asphalt shingles, warehouse. Yeah, which it can be, right? Warehouses and cowboys and stuff. But I came to this realization with roofing, and I think this is the best example. What does the roof represent to a customer? It represents safety, peace of mind, protection, their belongings. They're dry during the rain, warm during the winter. It's literally like the protection to the domicile, which is their life. And so it's like when I sell roofing, it's like I'm providing not a roof, not providing a good deal, right? I'm providing protection for this family. To value that correctly and to look at it as that type of a service to them is something that draws you to this whole new level of understanding of what you're doing, where a paycheck is a byproduct of that. If you're focusing on a paycheck, and I always say this, don't sell someone your paycheck. If you go in and it's like, "I'm going to sell you my commission," that's what I'm doing here. It's like, number one, you're going to have sales breath, but number two, you're not valuing the correct things. And I would say that the people who struggle to stay in sales long term, they may have that big peak of performance, right? They're out there looking for the old Haitian ladies that they can force to sign a document. But the people who are long term successful are the people who are, "I'm here to serve people and solve problems."
There you go. Yeah, stop selling, start serving. Just there it is. You mentioned a few things I would love to deep dive with you guys on. I have this breakdown of, have you guys ever read Start With Why by Simon Sinek? Okay, it's amazing. If your why is big enough, you'll figure out how. The how is sales training, like how to close, what to say, one-liners. The what is the product, the service, the company. And if you understand the why, then why is the impact. If the impact is big enough and you believe in it, you're going to sell that, right? If I give you the cure to cancer, Jordan, and we're on the brink of it, like we have the cure, we're the only company that has it. You think we're going to be passionate about that? You think we're going to feel bad, like calling people, getting rejected? People say, "No, we're not interested." Are you going to feel bad about it? You're going to pity yourself? No, you're going to keep going. And so I would say that you sell to the degree that you're sold.
I love that. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, bad salesman doesn't believe in his product. He doesn't believe in the why. And I think I love the phrase, "If your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough," by the way. But I renamed the why as core governing value. And that's actually a Hiram Smith thing. Franklin Covey, he named it that. He actually he's like, "Your why is not a why. It's a core governing value. It's the value that governs everything that you do. And he's like, you will always serve what you value, for good or bad. If it's because there are core values and poor values, right? So if your poor value is sex, drugs, money, cars, notoriety, title, you will do anything to get that, and you're going to reap the consequences. If your core values are service, love, kindness, protection, safety, you're going to do everything you can to serve those values.
I love that. And then, it solves so many problems right there. Like when you have that mindset, you don't have commission breath. And there's something amazing. There's a psychology about this. Like when you lean in and show disparity, they lean back, and it's like, oh no. But when you lean out, you're like, I'm good. Like you sign up or not, like they lean in. It's reverse psychology, and it's this buy-in that happens organically. And you and I both learned this on our missions. And this is a beauty of selling without making a commission, is you learn how to actually sell. And it starts with, we got sold on something that changed our lives, and then we go share it. And I think the problem with the sales industry is they're like, oh, hey, my buddy Jeff made 50K selling pest control. Dude, like I got to get on that. That's such an issue. And it's a job, right? Like, so we got to go make money. But sales is unique, where I personally believe, this is, I'm very passionate, as you can tell. You don't do the job for that. You find something that you believe in, you sell your parents, you'd sell your friends, even if you didn't make a commission. If you would do that, and if they qualify, right? Like if they own a home for solar, right? Then that's a good sign that you should get into that space, right? Yeah. So, tell me more about personal development. Like how does personal development play a role in sales or maintaining a high level of selling?
Yeah, that's Chad. I feel like I'm stealing all the answers here. Do you want to chip in on it?
Just enjoying the ride. Yeah, I think that like personal development for me is like as a business owner, I don't think that like I owned a roofing company, and I think that like these solar companies, pest control, like we don't own companies that do that. We own personal development companies, and that's like the coolest part of our job, is that we get to bring somebody in who doesn't have character, who's young, maybe just lacking in skill set or perspective. And we get to like take them to this whole nother echelon of like themselves, their higher selves. So that's like the most rewarding thing for me, is to be able to take a rep who's brand new, who's never knocked a door in his life, and doesn't really have confidence or the ability to talk to people, and then see them like, a month or 2 months or 3 months later, just slaying it at the doors. Yeah. It's like, there's no greater feeling than that. Yeah. And also not only leveling up in their career, but like they start to have better relationships with their family or their spouse, or
it's a ripple effect,
friends, or it
all goes full circle. Yeah.
How you do one thing is how you do everything. So it's really neat to like be at the Christmas parties and see like their families and their friends, and like everybody's just like enjoying the hard work that they put into it. And it's like every year it's like that person's like a completely different human being. So
I love that. Well, Chad, but just to chip in, I love that. I feel, so this is what I noticed. So I'm divorced, 3 kids, and it's wrecked my life. I've had a lot of failures, a lot of successes in sales, and a lot of failures as well. And a lot of it was, I've realized not filling my cup. And even though I was selling well, doing pest control, I was slowly depleting my cup, right? And even though I was good, making money, it wasn't sustainable because the personal development, everything else wasn't there. And but what I'm a big believer in now, my girlfriend and I both, like, this is like big mantra, is we can't pour from an empty cup. And that's what selling is. And you fill your cup yourself. That's not someone else's job to do. It's not your partners, it's not your friends, it's not your boss. You fill your own dang cup. And that's what selling is. It's a lot of people have the commission breath of sell, make a commission, and you got to make money. But if you can pull back, think about them, and just add value, serve, right? And part of that is you got to be willing to walk away when the deal's not right. In solar, no tax liability, right? Or there's too much shading and then they're not cutting down trees.
She's a 93-year-old lady.
93-year-old, yeah, exactly, right? And so you walk away from those. And I've noticed the more I've walked away, I feel like the big man sees that. And not only that, your confidence skyrockets. You could be an atheist, and he, like, you get higher confidence when you do that. Because when you look someone in the eye and say, hey, like, no, normally people don't always qualify this, but this is a good situation, they'll see that it's real. But as far as pouring from an like empty cup, so I'm kind of dabbling on a few things here, but like physical fitness, investing in your mind, getting around good people, for me, those are all big things. how, like Chad, you've done this with people, you've turned these people around. Like, what was the process? Like, how do you invest? How do you increase that confidence that you mentioned?
I think that the single most the thing that people tend to leave out of their lives is community. And really what I mean is like a mastermind. Like if you want to level up, you need to be around people that are going to help you get there. And you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So I had heard that at a young age and didn't believe it. And then I got to experience, it in real time. And when I started to get around people that were experiencing the kind of success that I wanted in my life, and it started to happen in my life, it almost gave me the chills. You know what I mean? It was like one of those, because I didn't listen to my parents in a lot of ways. I was like kind of an interesting kid. And it took me many years to like fail over and over and over again to start saying, maybe, some of these things that people are saying are right. And once I did, I started to reap the benefits. And that was kind of the first one where I was like, man, like the people I'm around is everything. So I think that like when you plug into the right company and the right culture and the right team, or you don't, that is like, that's what changes the game. Yep. That's what makes or breaks your success.
Yeah, I think that's that, and then having the passion behind that industry and company.
Definitely.
But then the people, that's so huge.
Yeah,
that's so huge.
Can I chip in on the personal development piece? Yeah. Something you said kind of brought up what I was reading this morning. I read a lot of Stoic philosophy. I was reading Letters from a Stoic by the philosopher Seneca this morning while I was on the treadmill. And tell
me how you do that later.
Yeah. Well, I was just walking on the treadmill. Yeah. I don't do a ton of cardio. But it's interesting that you bring that up because he talks about this concept of goods. And he said, money is actually not a good. And I don't mean like good or bad. It's not a good, right? He said, goods are things that produce confidence and love and kindness and development in your life. And a product of goods is going to be money, right? That's just a byproduct of doing goods in your life, right? And so talking about that concept of like, people say like, what do you do to stay motivated? I'm like, well, motivation's bullshit, right? Because motivation is like, it lasts for 20 minutes and then you're like, well, I'm tired, right? And so what do they say you need? They say you need discipline. And you're like, okay, well, discipline fades when you get fat and wealthy, right? You start to make money and then you're like, well, now I don't need to be as disciplined because I've got a bunch of money in the bank. So what is it? What is that thing? And this is a training that I give a lot. What is that thing that drives you when motivation is completely non-existent, when discipline has faded, right? It's values. It's values. It's high level things that you're willing to serve. And so in regard to personal development, people say, I want money. Great. You can get money if you focus on values. Well, I want cars. Great. Cars are going to be a byproduct of focusing on values. Well, I want the dope wife and I want the big house. That's going to be a byproduct if you act congruently and virtuously in regard to your values, right? Screw the motivation. Motivation is going to disappear. Discipline's a great English word, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. Values and serving those high level values. Meaning, and what I mean by that is like when it's cold or it's dark or it's hot and everyone's told you to F off or they called the cops on you, if you don't have a high level value, you will get in your car and you'll drive home every single time, right? Well, and think about it. Like, think for like guys, like 3 years, they grinded really hard and they were successful at that. And this is the same thing like with fitness, right? People will be fit for a while and be like, I used to be fit. What is it that keeps you continually fit? It's that I have a system where I have values that I will always serve that bigger mission in my life, right? Which for me, like people ask, like I'm 40, and they're like, why are you fit at 40? Why do you care so much? Like, like why aren't you just like all the other dads, right? Why do you push so hard? Like, why are you like a squirrel on cocaine? For me, what I would say the most valuable thing for any man, any woman is to look at themselves in the mirror in the morning and say, I am consistent in being congruent with my values and integrity. And it's like, I want to be worthy of those things. And you can't truly look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am worthy of those things if you're not being consistent with your values.
Yeah, I love that. That's an extreme level of confidence that is not fake. It's real. Yeah. I love that. I love what you said about motivation and discipline. I'm a big proponent of discipline, but I want to break down this value thing. So what are these values like as an example for let's just say from just a typical sales rep, right? Like what is a poor sales rep values look like? And then what is a top performer sales rep, like a consistent over time, not just a burnout.
Oh yeah.
And
Not
you
like
kind of hit on
3
the burnout here. Like that's part of what prevents people from burnout is you got to have something bigger why.
Yeah, and burnout's real. I think for all the listeners as well, they've either felt it, they're feeling it, or they're going to feel it at some point, right? And burnout is just a mindset. Burnout is because they don't really understand what's going on, like that. They're coming to a precipice of where they need to serve their values, or they don't have values and they're going to burn out, right? So there's really only 3 values, to be honest. So like people get confused on values and they say, well, like hustle is values, or like wealth is values, or reputation is values. No, those are just names we put on values. The 3 big values are peace of mind, protection, and prestige, right? Peace of mind, protection, prestige. Prestige meaning that worthiness, right? Look at being able, like, I was telling Chad about this on the way here, proving to myself that I am the high level person, that I got kicked out of 2 schools by the time I was in 7th grade, expelled from high school, was supposed to be a statistic of the state, like I served a mission, but when I got home, my dad was like, I thought I'd see you in 3 weeks. You know what I mean? So proving to myself that prestige that I possess in myself. Protection, meaning that the people around me that I care about. Right. And then peace of mind, like having sustenance, the needs, the basic needs met, but even going beyond that, right, to where it's like the basic wants met, right? And so you can put whatever name you want on those, but it's always going to represent one of those 3 things.
One of those, interesting.
And I think that's what you have to boil it down to is like, okay, so Socrates, which we know who he was, right? He was a Greek philosopher, right? He's famous for the Socratic method, and what is that? It's asking why.
Yeah.
Define that. Why? Why? So I'll go into a company and I'll typically do this in my first meeting with sales reps. I'll ask the sales manager, I'll be like, well, what do you value? They're like, well, or like, why are you here? That'll make money. Why? Oh,
it's drawn a blank.
Yeah. Well, or they'll say like, yeah, well, so I can have freedom. Why? Because, I love my family. Why?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Right. And we always draw it back to some level of protection, peace of mind, or safety, right?
Yeah.
And prestige. So if you can boil it down to that, then you can really expand what that vision looks like. So for me, I keep on my phone here, if I can turn it on here. How do I turn my phone on? I keep what's wrong with my phone? No, it's fine. I have my vision board on my phone.
That.
Right. Yeah. I keep my vision board, my fitness. I have the Copenhagen Symphony. We go to Copenhagen often. TED Talk, not TEDx, TED, where they actually invite you, right?
Yeah.
Being debt free, education, food, Christ, all that stuff. And I keep that top of mind to represent those values. So I don't ever really get stuck in the like, this is just about money or this is just about a car. Like I drive a Tesla. My wife drives a brand new Defender. We have a beautiful house. Like we have money. But none of those things are the values themselves. They're just the byproducts of the high values. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that, man. What was like a poor sales rep, like a low performing sales rep? What do their values look like? What are they missing?
Yeah. So, from a very peripheral level, first and foremost, just having needs met, right? Because it's like, if you're just focused on needs, like I need to pay my car payment. Well, once you meet that need, you're going to stop, right? I need to, eat. Well, you're going to go get 2 sales in a day if you need to eat, and then you'll keep chasing that need. So I think people who are focused on needs-based goals are always going to be a poor sales rep. If you focus on wants-based goals, what do I want? What do I desire? What am I manifesting in my life? That's going to be a good sales rep. So, but to go beyond that, I think,
dude, we can unpack so much right there. That's but keep going.
There's a lot, and nothing against those sales reps, because I think look, we've all developed. We all started there somewhere, right? It was like when we were teenage boys, we thought about chicks and sports and video games or whatever. You know what I mean? And we've developed into these people, so you can develop into a higher level person who desires higher level things. But I would say the lower level reps who burn out are the ones who only ever focus on the things, the cars and the money and the balance and like I don't even know what I don't know what my balance is right now in my bank account, because that's not what's important. That's going to come naturally to the activities that I carry out. But the low level people will find those people who are the ones that are like, I don't care if she's 93. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, Yeah.
It's crazy, but you'll never find those guys selling at a high level for consistent for years.
It'll happen quickly, right? They'll be like,
Up and down,
one
yep.
year they're like, I'm on top of the world.
Yep.
And then the next year they're like, I'm really struggling. It's like, well, because you never established a set of high values.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been there. When I did pest control, made $250,000 my first summer and thought I was hot shit. But again, selling something that had insane conviction, from selling something before where I was just oozing conviction, right? That's the word I love is conviction. I had confidence and I was able to sell very well. And I was master of urgency and scarcity and all the different principles and nonverbals, and insane work ethic. But, it wasn't sustainable. And I love the pest control industry. There's so many great things about it. It's a phenomenon. I built a company in the pest control industry. Love it. Very passionate about the service space. But there's a reason I feel so many sales reps try to replace themselves and get out as fast as they can, right? I'm all about replacing yourself and delegating and growing.
Yeah, everyone's like, I want to get off the doors as quick as possible. I'm like, well, why?
Yeah. What? Yeah. And I think it comes down to they have a weak why, and all the top guys, when I talked to other top reps before I blew up that first summer, because I interviewed and got around proximity of the top guys, I picked their brain. I'm like, okay, he's not that great. This guy can do 1,000. I can definitely do this. And so, but a lot of it was just like they had bigger things of real estate, passive income, wealth goals, just pushing myself, or a chip on their shoulder. And those are great. But again, that's not going to sustain you, because those aren't as big value based. So I love that.
Yeah. Well, in regard to like fitness too, and then I'll shut up. I can jam on this forever, right? It's like the fitness thing, right? And there's a guy, Al Granum. I don't know if it's actually Al Granum in the insurance industry who said this, but the common denominator of success. Okay, there's a pamphlet out there, and it says that successful people are willing to do the things that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do, right? And so what it really comes down to, like, I love fitness as an allegory for this, because it's the hardest thing to actually do, and here's why. Look, we all want dopamine to solve our problems, right? And we're gonna have sex with it, we're gonna smoke it, we're gonna drink it, we're gonna eat it, right? Most socially acceptable thing to do is to eat it, right? So we do a hard day on the doors or a hard day in the office. We go home and we're like, oh, I'm gonna eat a bowl of cereal. And no one's watching me, no one's keeping me accountable. When I'm out in the doors, even there's some level of accountability. Here, there's not. So one of the benefits of teaching nutrition and fitness is like, no one's watching you. No one's keeping you accountable. This is going to stress inoculate you against some of the hardest things you're ever going to do by going home. And instead of engaging in the food, saying, I'm going to keep my commitment to myself. And it teaches you this high level of practice of, if I can do that, which no one can do that, I can hit more doors.
Well, not that, as far as a persuasive ability too, when you keep commitments to yourself, when you look somebody in the eye and tell them like, this is going to happen, they feel it. They're like, two people can say the same thing, and whether they're trained on paraverbal communication or not, it doesn't matter. It's not about the how, it's about what's the person speaking it, right?
You can't use the dark psychology on somebody to be sincere. And that's, it goes back to the idea of like, are you looking at yourself in the mirror every morning and saying, I'm keeping my commitments? Because you can't lie to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I
love that. Okay. So let's talk about these top performing reps a little bit. Well, on this topic, and I'm going to got you in the spotlight here. I love this, Jordan. And you guys can either pitch in, but top reps, their values. Can you guys pick out a few that in particular, and trace it back to, okay, it was because of this?
Yeah. So, well, I'll highlight a client of mine. His name's Billy, and he works for a company called Nolan's Roofing out in Orlando. And he was actually a mid-performing rep when we first got together.
Okay.
And we had this conversation. I took him into a room and I said, what do you value? Like, what's the core governing value? And we kept asking why, and it got down to the worthiness and his daughter, and like what he wanted to create wealth because he wanted to be able to give his daughter this next level life and really show his daughter what a next level person was, because he knew he would set her up to be a next level person. And I always tell men, especially who have daughters or sons, I'm like, your daughters will marry you and your sons will become you. So what the hell are you doing? Right. And so we had that conversation, and I said, let's put a number to it now. What does that number represent? What do we need to purchase that opportunity for you? And he's like, I need to be able to do $500,000 a year. I'm like, great. What does that look like? And he's like, well, I need to do, about 21 builds a month to be able to do that. I said, what does that look like in a weekly basis? Nice. He's like, this many. And I said, great. What does that look like in a daily basis? Like, how many do you need to sign daily? So I need to sign 2 every single day. Okay, great. you have data on the doors. How long does it typically take you to go out and sign 2 contingencies to prepare these for jobs to build, right, in roofing? He's like, well, probably about 2 hours per. Well, let's call 3 hours. I'm like, great. So how many hours do you need to knock every single day to go out and create 2 contingencies? He's like, well, 6. I said, great. Now let's go back to the why, because you can boil it down to the 6 hours, but what's going to make you knock 6 hours every single day? And he's like, oh, that personal worthiness, the family, the freedom, and showing my daughter what type of man I want her to, to marry, and the type of person I want her to be. And now he's doing almost triple the amount of contingencies consistently, and he's on track for that $500,000.
How does he do it? Is he actively on the phone to how does he remind himself of that stuff?
Yeah. So what helped in the beginning, because I love this guy. So I kind of bugged him really hard in the first little bit. I'm like, Billy, where are we at, bro? I was like in Tahiti. I'm like, what's going on, man? And, but yeah, we got down to the 13-year-old girl level, and I helped him create his vision board. I'm like, put this on your phone, because top of mind is always going to be in front of vision. Right. And keep looking at it. I'm like, what do we do all day? We effing look at our phones. Right. Yeah. So he put that on there. And then it just became second nature because of the intrinsic feeling of being I'm awesome and valuable, and I'm hitting these numbers. And that's, and we've even gone through little slumps where he's like, wow, I'm like, no. Let's get back to the lead generation and signing, as many contingencies as possible. And so for him, I think it's really been coaching him, and it's not like he didn't know this before. When we hear this,
go ahead.
We coach people all the time, right? Yeah. And it's they're like, oh my, I'm so, one of my coaches is Dave Meltzer, who's an amazing. Dave is awesome. I was with him down in Miami, and he said something to me, and I was like, Jordan, you're an idiot. You've known this. It's been in there somewhere. How did he just brought it out and kind of brought it to the front of my vision? So with Billy, it's just I just had to here. It's right there. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? So
it's because the client, this is the beauty of coaching, is it's not that the coach is smarter. The coach doesn't have to be smarter or better or more talented or more gifted, more insightful. It's there. You're in the trenches. You're doing the work, you're grinding. And the coach has all attachments removed, and they have that vision that can see over, right? You're in the battlefield. They can see ahead, and they're like, dude, you already know this, but do this. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Yeah, you're you're just sitting. Yeah, I'm not anything like Billy. Billy, I think you're more talented than me in a lot of ways, Billy. But I'm sitting up in the stand, and you're down below. I'm like, Billy, it's behind you.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Dude, this is something that blew me away when I started doing coaching. We took off last year, coaching clients one-on-one. One of the most rewarding jobs, by the way. So cool. And I've learned a lot of people can do it, and especially if I can do it, a lot of people can do it.
Yeah, it's true.
But what I learned more is I thought it was gonna be a lot of the sales psychology stuff like that, but you don't have to be this amazing person to do that. It's just having that extra person of accountability and insight. It's amazing what that unlocks for people. And a big passion for me and what we're helping build. And I love that you guys do this, and we might be able to work together in some regard. But so many sales reps don't do coaching. They don't invest in themselves. You see guys like us and entrepreneurs investing hundreds of thousands of dollars. I pour more money into myself than I do into real estate and anything else, because I know it's going to have a bigger ROI. And, but if salespeople could only see that, and they get scared about paying for a coach or something like that. But if they could see the vision, how do you think people could get into getting the experience of a coach to help level them up? What do you think is a limiting belief there, or how do you guys help people with that? So sell me on coaching.
Yeah. So you're a great person to talk on this, actually. Yeah.
Well, we saw that need as well.
Yeah.
And we actually designed an entire program called The League.
Okay.
That we're going to be launching full blown at D2DCon this year.
Let's go.
So beforehand it was for CEOs, which is how I met Sam. I got into the circle, the CEO mastermind. And just blew up from there. My company 3x'd in 2 years. And even my team was like, this is amazing. Whatever you guys are doing, this is amazing. But there was no place at the time, at least within D2D experts, for our reps to go or our leaders to go. There were certain events for sure, which were incredible. But Sam Taggart saw the need, and we designed an entire platform for leaders, for reps, and for people that are just maybe I'm interested in doing this. You know what I mean? To kind of give them a path to progression in terms of like we want them to be in the circle someday. Like we want you to, maybe if that's your thing, you know. I also believe that like you need to know who you are. You know what I mean? Like, and I think this is something to kind of speak on an earlier topic, but people get burnt out because they're doing something that doesn't align with who they are.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people that are just not an ops guy or a sales guy or a, you know, something, and they're doing it, and it's like they're forcing themselves every day, day in and day out, to do something that they just weren't meant to do. And so I think it's really important to know, like, are you meant for this? You know what I mean? And I think that like all three of us can confidently say like we know what we were meant to do. And that's what like hopefully we're teaching these reps and leaders and even CEOs, like what is your calling? Because that's the thing that's really going to drive you.
I love that. That's so awesome. I'm so
You said that so much better than me, man. Like I was like, when you said that, I'm like, well, duh. See, he's coaching me, right?
I love it.
Yeah, but the league is like that's the new evolution of like our mastermind for leaders, for reps, for all of you guys out there, to be able to have the mentorship, the coaching, the you know, the guy up on the hill saying go left, not right, you know.
Well, guys, I think it's so cool. Like, obviously, there's a lot of person about just talking out before the podcast for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, I have an idea that where this is going to go. And so a couple of things. One, I want to talk passion, skill set, opportunity. It's the hedgehog concept by Jim Collins, studying all the top businesses, which ones blew up, which ones didn't. And the hedgehog is right in the center of all three of passion, skill set, opportunity. So bad opportunity, like flyers. Good opportunity, social media, right? Good opportunity, solar, like high paying, or maybe like a telecommunications sales job, bad opportunity. Passion, something obviously you believe in. We don't need to explain that. But then skill set, you know, are you good at that job, sales, right? And so if you can align all three of those, people just sometimes just look at the opportunity, mostly just look at the opportunity and the company. And then, but if you can get behind the passion, the people and the product, that's huge. But that's the hedgehog for salespeople. This leads me to another point. Sorry, I'm trying to connect that with another thing. Salespeople are entrepreneurs. Do you guys agree? You work for yourself, but you have a system that's already completely different to entrepreneur and salesperson, right? I mean, there's a lot, but it is, you have a system and a product that's already set. You just need to get clients, get in front of people and put the product in front of people, right? And entrepreneurs do that, and plus build out everything else out. But a lot of things are similar. And if salespeople can start thinking like entrepreneurs in this regard, with the hedgehog, with their time, with personal development, investing themselves, coaching, they'll get a similar ROI. I've noticed that for myself. And part of my story, I'll share with you guys real quick. I was doing solar last year, making $20,000 a month. And then I invested in myself, went all in, and I would study. And I went the top guys in the industry, Michael O'Donnell and a couple others.
I love Mike.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a homie, dude. I love him.
He's so fun.
Yeah, we're homies for sure.
I love that. And but when I got around him, I wasn't getting the one-liners. It wasn't about the one-liners. It wasn't about how. It wasn't about what he was doing. It wasn't about the company. I was able to duplicate what he's doing right here in very difficult state to sell, and 10x my income from 20K to over 200K a month. And it was because of the passion, the why. That's all. He got me fired up about the solar. He helped me understand the scarcity, the urgency behind it. The things are going away, and all of a sudden I see this like opportunity that isn't going to be around, right? And I start communicating with massive authority. And it's because I was super sold. I got super sold, and I got that ability to sell at that level because I invested in myself and I took the gamble. I think a lot of guys just they lack the inner belief that like they have more in them. You know, like you were called to do sales for some reason. Like you got balls, you know, if you're a woman, like it's an amazing thing.
Yeah. You got balls still. Yeah. You got balls still. Yeah, for sure.
But no, it's so I think they just need to lean into that a little bit more, invest, take the risk. It's, to some regards, sales is obviously risky, right? It's a risky thing. It's not always guaranteed income. And so you're a mini entrepreneur, lean into that, invest in yourself, go do coaching, mastermind seminars. A lot of them do, but not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike has such an awesome story. He's a great friend. And in fact, we were with him in Orlando, and I told him, like, you need to tell more of that passion story, because he gets technical sometimes and stuff. I'm like, tell more of like, because we did a podcast together and he got really into just the mindset stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mike, you're blowing my mind here. And I'm like, you need to just have a mindset alone podcast. But he had a switch. And it really was when he started to really understand where that hedgehog came together for him. Because he told me we were in Tahiti together, and he's like, I used to, he didn't make money till he was quite a bit older, right? And he's in his 60s now, or almost 60 or something like that. But he was like, I used to think that I was doing well when my kids couldn't qualify for the free lunch at school. Like I was doing enough. I make enough money to where my kids are like, like they're not too poor. Right. But then when passion and skill set and the other one, opportunity, came together for him, that's really when it so. And the reason I bring that up is like, look, a lot of guys, maybe they're listening. They're like, dude, I don't really know how to get there. And maybe I've had success and now I'm not having success. Mike was literally in his 50s when all of a sudden it like clicked, right? Or it's like, I love Ian McKellen, who plays Gandalf or Magneto.
Wait, hold on. Let me.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
On Michael O'Donnell. He's making probably over $1 million a year doing solar. So
easy.
Just that's all I need to say.
Yeah. Easily, right? Just on the sales side alone.
His own sales.
No reps. He does. Yeah.
Not to mention the business.
I love Mike, man. Yeah. Mike and I are kindred spirits. But Ian McKellen, who's an Oscar award-winning actor, multimillionaire himself, he had been a stage actor up until his 60s. And then all of a sudden in his 70s, he's like, I'm going to go play Gandalf. And now he's Gandalf, and he's Magneto, and he's, I don't know, and every other, you shall not pass, what I mean? And he's a multimillionaire now because he didn't give up, right? But I think for different people, I always look at it like, I'm 40. I'm like, man, when I was 20, like your age, when you figured it out, it's like, oh shit, I wish I would have been the hedgehog then, you know what I mean? So if you're listening, listen closely, find a way to connect those dots now and do exactly like Nick did, where it's like, dude, like find a way to get to that level where you can put those things together, and you're going to find that passion for sure.
Dude, everything we both know, the compound interest isn't just with money. It's even more so with investing in yourself and getting into around the right opportunity. So that's
well, and I think too, just finish up that point, because this came to my head. It's like, I think like you made a really good point. Like it didn't, that conglomeration didn't come together. It didn't fall in your lap. You had to go look for it. You're like, look, I went and studied the top performers. I read the books. I invested in myself. So I think a lot of sales reps or entrepreneurs in general are thinking like, okay, I'm waiting for it to fall out and hit me in the face. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to find the hedgehog unless you're out searching for it. You've got to invest in it and look for it to find it.
And again, like you see, if you were to just Google or YouTube, how can I go from 20,000 a month to 100,000 a month in sales? Or how can I make $500,000 a year in sales? Everything you're going to see on there is tactics on training. And this is what I get fired up about is that's not how you do it.
Yeah. No.
You do it by getting sold on yourself and on what you're selling. That's it.
That's so true.
That's it, man.
Well, and I think that it's about putting yourself in the right opportunities, but like you said, like those they don't come to you.
Yeah.
So it's good. Like if you're in sales,
you already understand this principle. You got to
you're starting in the right place, because like, especially if you're in direct sales. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I sold Verizon in a store. I sold Rosetta Stone at a kiosk in the mall. I've done stuff where like people come to you, but it's very different than direct sales. Direct sales is kind of like, at least for me, was the first job where I'm like, wow, like I am an entrepreneur. Like nobody's necessarily telling me like how to manage my time, like how many, they give me a little bit of boundaries or guidelines, but for the most part, it was up to me, and my success was up to me. So it really put me in a position to like start to build those skill sets. Like even before the podcast, we needed another chair. It's like, we just go get the chair. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's
the mic stand too as well.
The mic stand.
Yeah, we got stabbed into a cactus right now.
You know what I mean? So like, and I think that like for me, being an entrepreneur, whether it's like when I was a rep or owning business, whatever, like I think they're the same thing in a lot of ways. It's about problem solving. So like you get paid to solve problems. The bigger the problems and the more volume or quantity of problems you can solve, the more you get paid. So I think that like, that's what makes me good at what I do, is like, I may not necessarily like get juiced about certain things in sales, but I love solving problems. And to me, that was like how I could use my strengths to be good at sales.
And Chad, you look for problems. Like you're the guy who like, identifies them.
Yeah. Hold on, let me hit on this real quick.
I'm the liability guy.
Let me geek out on this with you. So on salespeople and entrepreneurs, this applies to both. Average salespeople or just good salespeople are good at problem solving. Master salespeople are phenomenal at problem finding. They identify. People aren't aware of the situation, but they can, through questions, through listening and empathy, they can find and see where they could be. This kind of leads me to another thought from going back to mission experience. Sorry.
We call him a dry Mormon. He doesn't drink coffee. He doesn't drink alcohol.
Coffee, I don't drink.
He's in on it.
He's on his way.
For other reasons.
He's doing better than me.
Yeah.
But on my mission, before I went on my mission, okay. And for those of you who don't know church missions, you go in 2 years, pay to be there. Yeah. And you're just teaching people about Christ with the mission to basically get them to quit smoking, stop drinking, just help change their life, bring them to family.
Get them in the water.
Yes. Get them in the water. Dunk them. But I remember hearing a talk about the most successful missionary ever in like Europe, and they'd never baptized out there. And so I'm right before I leave on my mission, I'm like, I'm listening. I'm ready. Tell me the secret. And he said, the mission president interviewed him, said, tell me what you're doing. What is different? And he said, every time I look at somebody, whether they're smoking, whoever they are, I don't look at them in their current state. I look at them as who they can become after they changed. So if you have that ability to have that lens and see people, see opportunity, see business, not as it is, but as it can become, you have that gift to communicate at a different level.
It's manifestation, right? Can I tell a story real quick?
Please.
So it's kind of twofold. I don't know if we have enough time for it. I was thinking about Rick and biological equilibrium, which he talked about, which is an amazing principle. You could do a whole podcast on that. But
you got to get this guy on your podcast.
Dude, Rick is the G. He's like an astrophysicist, roofing owner. Like, it's incredible. But we were in Tahiti. We took the Circle, which is the high level mastermind in the DDD ecosphere, to Tahiti, which Mike is a member of that. So Mike was with us there. But when we first got in there, if you don't know who Sam Taggart is, of course, most of you do. He's the CEO and founder of DDDU, DDD Con, DDD Experts, high performing door-to-door sales, the whole thing. And one thing about him is we do these trips and he doesn't necessarily love to plan everything, right? He likes things to kind of naturally develop, right? And the problem with Tahiti is we had 75 people there. So there weren't a lot of things you could plan. One of the things he wanted to do there, he's like, I want to take all these 75 people out into the wilderness and do a 24-hour food fast and word fast, meaning a vow of silence, and then do 8 hours of pure meditation in the forest, in the mountains, right? You couldn't find a place to do that. It doesn't exist in Tahiti. So the first day that we're there, Sam's like, all right, let's go figure it out, right? And so first we go to the LDS chapel and we meet some people there and we're thinking some stuff is developing. But Sam and I kept having like this impression. We're like, we just need to drive into the mountains to find this hike first where we're going to do this thing. And so it's towards the end of the day. We still hadn't got out there and we're like, look, let's just go. So Sam and I and Sam's wife, Dee, we just take the car and we start driving up to this waterfall that I had identified on a map. And we take a wrong turn and we start going up this mountain and we come up to this place called the Rainbow Park. And it's way up in the mountains in Tahiti, right? Like totally local place. There's no tourists that go here, right? And so we're like, well, what's this? Let's turn down this road. And as we're driving down this road, there's an old Defender coming towards us with a bunch of kids in the back. And there's this French guy, because it's part of France, who we later identify as this guy named Manutea. And he's like, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, oh, we're and before we could finish, he's like, you're American? Hard stop. No. And we're like, look, we're just looking for a place where we can host this Look, guys, I got to take these kids down the mountain. It's going to take me 30 minutes. If you're still here when I'm back, great. We'll talk about it. If not, go ahead and leave. It's not a big deal. So we drive down into this park. It ends up being like an adventure park, right? He's got like catapults. He's got a 9-hole putt-putt course on the side of this mountain in Tahiti, ropes course, all this stuff. Everything that we were looking for, because we were going to do a survivor's game before that. And then you can sleep on this golf course, right, overnight. And so anyway, we get talking to this guy, Ben from New Zealand. We hatch this plan with him, and Manutea comes back still really resistant. We sell him on this idea, and he agrees to it and charges us like $5 a head, something like really, really.
We're like, okay, we can do. Yeah,
we're like, we can do that, right? And there's like goats and horses walking around. So we carry out this whole thing to where We ended up having everyone sleep overnight under the stars on top of this mountain. Mike's wife is Marsha's the sweetest lady. She even did it, right? And Marsha's out there sleeping under the stars, oath of silence. We feed everybody out there, and then we end up breaking the silence, hiking up the mountain to this restaurant that's on top of the mountain. That's the other part of the story is after that, we went and sold them, and we're like, we want to bring 75 people. Hard stop. No, you're Americans too. And we sold them on feeding us fondue the next night. So the reason I bring that up is like, we manifested this, door knocked it, sold it, and literally executed on it. Right. And it was such a funny story because we're like, yeah, we're door knockers. Like we literally did something that you can't go to Tahiti and be like, I want to do the same thing. It doesn't exist. We had a problem. And we found buses to take us up, which no one on the island would take us up the mountain. And the whole story there is like, we went and searched for a problem. Sam created the problem, right? It was like, well, I want to do this that no one else can do. Yeah. And then we found solutions for it by door knocking it and manifesting it.
I love that. Dude, we're hiring a lot of people and growing with our company. And the thing I look for A players is, do you solve problems? Do you act like, if you come to me to ask for it, like, I'm not interested. You're a B player. But this applies for sales. This applies to any job, is problem finders and problem solvers. I love that.
Oh, the last part of that story, though, by the way, is that I slept at Monotea's house last night that I was there. We became like great friends.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Jake, actually, who's like our director of training. Yeah. We both stayed at his house. Like he's coming to my house and he's flying out and stuff. Like literally, this guy became my best friend. You know what I mean? From literally just taking the opportunity to not be afraid to go into that darkness and that chaos and be like, let's just manifest this.
Oh, I love that. Well, dude, we're on this topic of entrepreneurship, salespeople, the kind of the symbiosis there, the correlation. One thing I've noticed is I've delved more into entrepreneurship the last like 4 or 5 years of my career, graduating from sales to entrepreneur, was leveraging my time. And that's been my big obsession. And looking back, I wish I knew this earlier. Selling was how important your time is. We're talking about time versus money. They're both important, but time, you can't get more time, but you can get more money. And but with this, how does this apply to salespeople and business owners? Business owners are obsessed about duplicating themselves so that they can work on the business, not in the business, and increase revenue and grow it, right? And so you need people to help you assist in tasks so you can be doing higher level things, the things that you're called to, the things that you're good at, right? And so that move the needle. And but if salespeople can understand this principle, this mentality, that there's things that you can even hire out, right? As far as we could deep dive on time management if you guys want, but there's things I've noticed. If you're making at least $100,000 a year, I think step one to double your income is, well, other than hiring a coach, investing in you, would be to buy back your time and realize, okay, I think for especially door to door, any type of sales job, there's minor time and major time. Minor times, taking notes on prospects, thinking about prospects, planning, goal setting, even making calls, door knocking. Major time is one thing. It's time in front of the prospect. And so how can we get more time in front of that prospect? And we're doing a lot of the back end fulfillment, like the client success. I'm all about client success management post sale, right? But that can be someone else that does that. And in fact, they can probably do it better. As assembly line. Henry Ford invented it, so delegate. And so I think a lot of salespeople could implement this system of delegation if they knew that principle, that, hey, you don't have to be a millionaire, a multimillionaire running a business to delegate and hire things out. You can do it at even $80K a year. And it's probably what's going to help you get to that next level.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think
Chad's an evil genius on this, by the way. He's an evil genius on this.
Kind of my thing. Yeah. Being an ops guy. I think that so Brian Tracy's like one of my favorite, authors. And one of the first books that really changed my life in this, realm is Eat That Frog. So, which is all about prioritizing task management. And I think as salespeople, this is easily the weakest link of their character, which I totally agree with you. When you get to that point, financially, you really should just do what you do good and delegate the things that you kind of suck at. You know what I mean? I do that all the time.
You'd be more fulfilled too.
Yeah. I used to mow my lawn. In fact, I love mowing my lawn, but it's just not worth my time to do that. It's way not worth my time to do that at this point. You know what I mean?
Because opportunity cost of the gifts that you've developed that God's given you that you could be blessing other people with.
Absolutely. Yep. So I think it's important to like stick to that. But like on the Eat That Frog note, like it really taught me, and I don't use like the exact like A, B, C, D, E, you know, method. I do Eat That Frog, like taking care of like the hardest, worst tasks first thing in the morning, knocking out first. It's funny. My wife is like totally opposite. She's very effective too. So find your method, you know what I mean? Find like what works for you and your character. But that one like just stuck with me. And I literally like, I live off of my calendar. My calendar is my boss. Cause you'll find is, you know, as an entrepreneur, like you may not have someone breathing down your neck. In fact, in most cases, if you're good, you don't. So, but you need someone telling you where to go, when to do it, you know, what to do. Like, so my calendar is that boss. And then inside of that, I have lists, you know, started off like when I first read the book with handwritten, like, all right, here's my to-do list for today. And I would highlight my A's, which are A's are, you know, if I go on a vacation for 30 days tomorrow, what do I have to do today? Or it's going to, you know, fall apart. So highlight all my A's and so forth. And one of those is D, which is delegate. So like, and I think E's is like, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, don't just forget about doing it. So you may think that you need to do it, but you actually don't. So that really helped me with like figuring out, you know, where do I spend my time, money, and energy? Which are the things that like, that's where I'm going to get my, you know, the ROI is like where I'm putting those things. Yeah. And it just put it all into perspective and helped me to put those things in the right places at the right times.
Where do you think somebody can start?
Read Eat That Frog.
I love that.
That is where you start. Like
Brian Tracy's got a lot of great stuff for it. Just salespeople and just
absolutely.
Anybody.
Yeah. I mean, we required, so like in our onboarding, we had like 4 tiers of like canvassers. So in every tier, you had to read a book before you could graduate to the next level. And Eat That Frog was the first tier. So
awesome.
If you don't get through that, really, like, and we found that like it really did turn our sales guys, our canvassers, our door knockers into way more efficient reps.
I love that. And outside of Eat the Frog, what about like the next step that somebody could actually take? Like, should they go to Upwork to hire somebody? Should they?
I think that's huge, actually. You know, I hired from Upwork. Sam was like just talking to me about it, and as he was talking, yeah, done. Yeah, you know, I mean, yeah, and because there's so much. I'm
logged in.
Yeah, there's good foreign labor in the Philippines or in Jamaica.
Fiverr's another great one.
Yeah, Fiverr's another great one. Yeah, I mean, like my wife, even just from like her perspective on like the domestic side is like even just like grocery delivery for her. She's like, I'm high level. I got kids, you know, I run a business, you know, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very big passionate about that side. The wife too, the partner. Oh yeah. Because can they do it? It's not responsible. Everyone has their own different beliefs, but I don't think anyone needs to be doing that. Like if they want to be with their kids or they want to have time with you elsewhere, like just pay somebody to do groceries.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My wife's actually way better at I tend to be more stubborn, more prideful about stuff, you know, like, let's go to Walmart, but she's a coach, you know, we have 3 kids. She's in great shape. She invests a lot in herself, massive personal development junkie herself. And yeah, is either like the Target pickup, right? When I'm on my way somewhere else, or the grocery delivery. And what's funny too, is like, I'm good with my time, but our emails today or text today were a great example. You know, he's like, I can't leave until everything's done.
And I'm like 30 unread text messages.
Well, that's low
like
for me. I'm like 500, you know what I mean? Like I had a client who's like,
I
haven't heard back from you. I'm like, I missed your text, you know? So
I was stressing at 83 last night.
Oh man. Well, talking about time management, the reason I have that is I will not respond to a text till I know I can read it and focus on it. So that's kind of like an accountability thing for me. Like I will read like the first line. If it's not somebody, and Ed Milet talks about this, like where it's like, it's okay to be like, this is not an important text message. I don't need to respond to this.
Do you leave the read receipts on, Jordan?
I don't.
I don't for that reason too.
Yeah, I don't, because it makes me accountable to something that I may not be able to engage with.
Yeah.
And like, so for example, this text that this person was hitting me up, it was a VA of somebody who had texted me, and it really wasn't an important message at all. It really wasn't. We had already set with her boss. We already had a date set for an engagement 2 weeks from now. So it just wasn't an important text
It was also
message.
sent on Thanksgiving.
And it was sent on Thanksgiving. And in the text, when I went back to her, she's like, "Oh, sorry, it's Thanksgiving."
Yeah.
So, for me, that is a tool that I use to be like, "Hey, this is not important." And some text messages, I'm sorry, I will never respond to. It's never going to happen because it just doesn't fit in that priority level for the time that I value.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about before the podcast was, you got to know what stuff to say no to. That's part of success, and it comes down to your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so getting around proximity for me, power and proximity. We talk about that. Talk a lot about personal development, entrepreneurship, sales. The mix of all that hybrid. Proximity for me has changed so much, and I'm obsessed about it. And being the dumbest guy in the room, because you hit a plateau. What if you don't? You should not be proud about being the top rep. You should not be. You got to upgrade, and upgrading might be doing something a little bit different, a little spin off of what you're doing. You might have to go run out your own sales version, sales gig. But getting proximity around, billionaire level people, even 100 millionaire, but also have their life together like that. Ed Milet is a guy, I don't have a filter. I take advice. There's no filter. Chris Crone is one of them for me. There's very few people like that in my life. I have a filter, and so I see how obsessive they are about this time management principle, and time blocking was a big thing. Like, how do you run 100 companies? How do you have time where you spend 3 days with your family? And they block off time ahead of time. And so, again, a salesperson thinking like an entrepreneur, selling like an entrepreneur would be, you go into the week, block off, when is your prospecting? What, not just your goals, how many you want to do, but reverse engineering, as you talked about on that coaching call with that guy. Okay, why do you want to do it? What do you want to do? Okay, let's break it down. How much volume do you got to put in per day, per hour? What does that mean? What time you're doing it? And then getting that stuff on the calendar. And we're not just talking about selling and prospecting or whatever, yeah, we're talking about life too, because if you fill that cup, because you can't show up for people. You're going to have that commission breath. If you don't fill your cup, you're going to come off as desperate. Even if your bank account's good, like you'll come off like it's going to be a bad energy.
Ed Milet talks about that. He's like, my family comes first every single time.
Yep.
Yeah. And on my calendar, it is number one priority for me on the calendar. And Dave Meltzer says, be a student of your calendar, become literally a student of your calendar. And the old saying, show me your calendar, I'll show you your life, And because I was talking to Dave about this, because he's a very wealthy guy, very busy podcast. He has a TV show on Apple Plus. Yeah. He's literally the guy that him and Lee Steinberger is who that's who they based Jerry Maguire off of. So he's a go guy, and he's like, I never ever relent on the valuable things in my calendar, which is my children and my wife first.
I love that so much.
Yeah, and time for yourself.
Personal
development, whether that's meditation or working out or whatever that is, like you need that,
identifying those things too. Yeah.
So for me, the limiting belief I had when I was married, and I was big failure for me was investing my spouse first, God or spouse first. You have to come first. And I fully believe that for so many reasons, because if you don't take care of yourself physically, how are you going to show up for your family? If you don't have the energy. You could, and it can come from a good heart. Good people do. It's
impossible.
That's kind of our culture, Nick. What we came from religiously or culturally, right? It's like, you got to serve your wife, serve your. It's like, no.
Yes.
If you serve yourself first, you will be so much more effective at serving your spouse.
Yeah. Dude, and everything is so correlated with selling. I mean, this is what sells it. You sell yourself before you sell other people. Otherwise, you're going to sell your soul. But yeah, service. I love that. Yeah. Serve yourself, take care of your needs physically. It's a no-brainer. I mean, there's so many health benefits of working out, physical fitness, higher energy levels. In that sense, dopamine literally sells people because energy enthusiasm is contagious, and people buy emotionally, right? Not logically. And enthusiasm activates that more than any other emotion other than fear. And so you got to take care of yourself. Can't rely off of caffeine and Adderall only.
Although I like caffeine.
Although we like that.
Yeah, we love caffeine.
We do like the caffeine. So caffeine's for closers. Well, this has been awesome, guys. I appreciate your time. I think this has been massive value add for a lot of salespeople, entrepreneurs, anybody. And I appreciate you both. Seriously, Jordan, thank you.
Likewise, man. Thanks for
having
us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate
you
it, Nick.
Studs. Thanks for coming in. Any last remarks, any last things you guys want to give pieces? I want to dive in a little bit more about like how do you duplicate the systems with sales teams and stuff. If you want to hit on that really quick, I'd maybe give one last golden nugget.
Yeah, I mean, systems and processes are everything. Like that's how you duplicate and scale. Like if you
so you go into a company and or like they're struggling, what's Chad doing?
Well, first, just like a sales, at the door, you're going to discover. So without knowing, what the issues are, how could you possibly, propose a solution. So a lot of our initial, greetings and meetings are about finding what's going well, but really what are the issues? What are the bottlenecks? What are the problems? And so we address those first.
What are they typically?
Typically they're systems. In my experience, like at least a lot of the clients that I work on is they don't have them, or the ones that they do are, kind of half-cocked or not well thought out. And, I think a lot of, contractors in my space just, are contractors. And then they're like, well, I should just do this on my own, and they start a business. So the problem with that is that they never educate themselves on how to really set up and run a business to where they can be business owners. So they always become, they're trapped, you know what I mean? By the business. And a lot of them that wears down the human soul more than anything I've maybe ever seen in my life is trying to run a business without systems,
It runs you don't run it.
Well, all of the pressure, if all the pressure isn't falling onto a system, it's falling onto people. And typically the owners that we're running into they don't know how to delegate. So it's falling on them, and they're broken. They're, like I've seen, and I've been in similar situations, maybe not quite far down the scale of some of the people that I get to consult, but I get it. I get the feeling, and I know because I've made the mistakes of not having the right systems or not delegating when I should have. But those are the biggest problems that I see. And then, diving into like, okay, how can we set up just a few simple things to make your life easier? And a lot of the time it can be done in like a day. You know what I mean? At least to get them started on the right path.
Because you already have the information, the system out. You just like,
we already know how to do it. Yeah. Like all you have to do is just do what we did and you'll get the results that we got. So it's nice to be able to, that's why, me and Jordan still have mentors and coaches, and because we want the cheat codes, you know what I mean? Like we don't want to have to spend 5 years learning how to do something. We want it in 5 months.
The more you learn, you realize how stupid we really were. Like, I realize how dumb
I say that often, man, I can't believe I didn't spend more money, sooner. Like I think last year I spent well over $100,000 just with D2D experts alone.
Dude, that thought, the opportunity cost of what it could be, that 10K is actually not 10K. It's about 100K is what that's costing most people, right? They got to think that way. Can I take that and implement that on an individual level? That's so insightful. Everything you said about the SOPs for like a sales rep implementing SOP systems, like, cool, I don't have a business like that yet. Like I'm not there. This applies to you. Right. One of the big things for me is having a go-to SOP. For those who don't know, standard operating procedure for when somebody no-shows, when an appointment no-shows, I have a go-to SOP. I have something where I can be proactive with my time instead of sitting there picking my nose. There's a go-to.
Getting mad and punching the steering wheel, driving 40 minutes back to the other turf.
Yes.
Yeah.
For different business I run, I have different SOPs for it, but for selling, you got to have a go-to system of what you're going to do when that happens, because that will happen. That's part of the job. Calls in early. And so you can't be happy. If you look at your schedule and you have all these 15, 20-minute gaps here and there, that's hours. That's days and that's weeks on the year. And that's costing you so much. And then the law of momentum, because of the compound effect, if you get more sales, you'll get in a higher level. So that's one thing. And then what was the other thing? Anyway, like delegation or something like that. But anyways, that was
I think a good place to start with that. Yeah. If you don't use GCal, like Google Calendar, you need to freaking start.
Use an iPhone and use Google Calendar. 2 tips.
Get an iPhone, use Google Calendar. Yeah. I personally use my reminders as task management.
Yes.
I've also used more complicated apps, but it needs to be sustainable. And I found that like for me and a lot of my reps, simple is sustainable. Like if it gets too complicated, you're not going to do it. Right. So you need to simplify it. So Google Calendar. And the nice thing about Google Calendar is like you can categorize like field time, in-home time.
You can look at it visually.
And you can see the percentages that you're spent, like where exactly to the T, which is like right up my alley because, analytics and being able to make decisions off of like actual facts. Not the way you feel. Because as salespeople, we we feel a lot, you know, and we're like, well, I think I'm doing good. I feel like I'm doing good. Well, let's look at the numbers, right? Like, let's look how many doors you knocked, or how much time you're spending in a home. You know what I mean? So Google Calendar was a great place for me to start, and a lot of our reps to start, is like, just track what you're doing so that you can know like what to adjust,
Where
when
your
to
time's
adjust
going.
it. Where's your time going?
I do, Google Calendar. So I do this to hold myself accountable to where my time go.
It's like every slot,
color coded,
color
love
coded
it.
by org thing. Yeah. So I can say, okay, 20% of my time is going to this business. Salespeople, you got SDRs, you got closers, you got different types of setter closers, you got different roles, right? And a lot of people do a hybrid, and that's great. I've had great success. I've made multiple 6 figures per month doing a hybrid. But here's the thing is, this still applies to you. There are certain parts of being a sales rep, all right, that you can still delegate out, not just on the customer fulfillment, client success, but pre-sale, or even like setting up in a prospecting, right? You can delegate that out, door knockers or cold callers. If you're phenomenal at building rapport and just like you win people over, like you should not be setting appointments. I love setting, I'm all about it. But you need to hire that out, because you need to use that gift at the max level. If it's 50% of your time, dial it up to 80 or 90 or 100%, and your income will 2 to 3x. So anyways, again, guys, this has been so awesome. Jordan, any last inputs or anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, just to say that, you know, Chad and I are kind of yin and yang. He works primarily with solar companies wanting to add the roofing offering in their organization. I work specifically, which I kind of fell into, you know, really with roofing companies that want to have a solar offering. And we definitely have the secret sauce, right? And it's not a pitch, but maybe it is a pitch. Look, roofing companies all fantasize about wanting to sell solar. None of them can figure it out. But there have been so many times that I've walked into a roofing company. Day one, they're like, we've never transacted one solar contract. And I leave the next day with 3 to 4 to 5 deals on the books, transacted, signed, ready to go, because we have dialed in the process that works. It's not anything like what people think it is. But the reason I bring that up is like, look, if you listen to this podcast and you want coaching, training, development, an LMS, the league, you know, come see us.
Join the league.
Join the league. Come to DDDCon, right?
Yeah.
Hit us up,
or don't join the league, and you know, continue to be.
Find us on Instagram, you know, at Solar D2D Expert, X no E in there,
and roofing D2D Expert.
Right. Hit us up, you know what I mean? And we're happy to point you in the right direction. You know, obviously Nick is wealth of knowledge as well, but you know, we're all here. We're sitting in these chairs because we want to serve people and help people and make them successful.
You're definitely on the right podcast.
Yeah.
If you're trying to up level, like this is the one.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And we talked about this before the podcast about the abundance mindset. I've had very high level, like very successful people, and then mediocre. And then the information they share and the willingness to collaborate the differences there are massive. And so I'm all for this. I love this. You guys have known, I go to experts in every space to suck their brain and implement. And if they've done it faster than me, I go to them. So you guys even have value for me to have that. I'll probably be talking to you guys about after as well. So yeah, and I've got referrals for you guys as well too.
Yeah,
so
great. Excellent.
But again, thank you guys so much. Where can they find you guys on Instagram? Experts, DD Experts.
Yeah, at the D2D, or at D2D Experts, or the D2D Experts.
D2D Experts.
D2D Experts. You can find us through Sam Taggart's Instagram as well too. We're always kind of tagged on there. Or the D2DExperts.com as well is a great way to get hold of us.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. It's been great.